Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich. This is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. Let's get to the docket because we have a very full docket today. First, new information regarding the search for Brian Laundrie and new information. Second, the Barry Morphew case. What is the DA really trying to use to get a conviction? Alex Murdaugh, guess what? He is quite a manipulator. There's no such thing as a free ride. R. Kelly remains silent. An update on the Tessa Major case. Hope you all haven't forgot about that. And then possession is not 9/10 of the law. Well, for a dumb criminal. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, your local lovable criminal defense attorney, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. All right, here we go. We have a busy docket today. Still, no Brian Laundrie. He hasn't been located, but new information is coming about as we speak. Literally, a couple that was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a wedding when they say that they witnessed Brian Laundrie arguing with waitstaff at the Mary Piglet's restaurant on August 27th, hours before it's believed that Gabby Petito is believed to have vanished. So Nina Celia Angelo and Matthew England, who are from Louisiana, were in Jackson Hole for a wedding. They go to this restaurant, the Mary Piglet restaurant, and apparently Brian Laundrie is witnessed by the two of them getting very aggressive with the waitstaff there that particular day. There was no argument or yelling, apparently, in the sense of he wasn't shouting at her, but he was getting very aggressive, according to Miss Angelo's statements. And what is more interesting is that Gabby Petito apparently came in and actually apologized for Brian Laundrie's actions there in the restaurant that day. I think as more information is coming clear, Brian Laundrie certainly has some anger issues and maybe some impulse control issues if he's shooting off with the waitstaff at the restaurant. Imagine what he does to people he knows and believes that he can intimidate versus just basically a stranger who maybe he's not happy with the food or the price. In additional news as it relates to the Gabby Petito matter, the family lawyer for the Petitos sent a cease and desist letter to Brian Laundrie's lawyer. Apparently the Petitos were upset because the lawyer's website, the lawyer representing Brian Laundrie, somebody put up a photo of Gabby Petito on his Yelp page, which he has no control over, has not advertised, according to him, on online or social media in any way, and certainly wouldn't use her photograph to drum up business. He thought that it was sick, and actually Yelp has taken the entire site down because of the amount of traffic that had gone to this particular site. I have to believe the lawyer for Brian Laundrie in this particular situation. I don't think that he would drum up business, and he certainly wouldn't do it by being by putting up a photograph of Gabby Petito on his Yelp page. So no harm, no foul. I get how the family would be upset, but that is really what it's nothing in this particular case. And there's a lot of news regarding Gabby Petito. Now the FBI is asking for the public's help in trying to find Brian Laundrie, who has eluded authorities since returning to Florida without Petito back as early as September 1st. The search of Laundrie was set to resume today at the nature reserve as new tips emerged about previous movements. The sheriff's office said Tuesday that it's investigating a report that a man matching the description of Brian Laundrie was captured on a trail camera walking on a property in the Florida Panhandle area. Now, this individual was purportedly spotted on September 20th on an automatic wildlife camera in Baker, Florida, which is more than 500 miles northwest of where authorities have focused their search on Laundrie. The sheriff is doing their due diligence in response to this report and is wrapping up an extensive search that took place in this area to include the nearby farmlands. No one and nothing of note was located. The individual referenced in the video below has no known ties to Okaloosa County area. That was in this Facebook post that got everybody all in a flurry that maybe he was some 500 miles away. The man that was featured in a blurry image from the trail camera of a man walking with a backpack. The image was initially posted on a Facebook by a local resident by the name of San Bass, who wrote, "I'm not saying this is the guy, but whoever was on my trail camera this morning in Bakers, Florida, strongly fits the description of Brian Laundrie." Bass wrote that authorities have been contacted and advised the Northwest Florida residents to be on the lookout. No evidence that that was in fact him. The search for Laundrie is centered around the Northport, Florida area, where investigators say Laundrie returned to his home on September 1st, and ultimately, when he became a person of interest, decided to take a little walkabout through the nature preserve. Whether he's there or not, we're not really sure. A dive team has been called in, but it's not known whether this is just routine procedure or whether they have found something of interest. I personally think that Mr. Laundrie got a several-day head start with the assistance of his parents, and he is on his way somewhere where he will not be found. And yet, in more Gabby Petito news, a second witness has corroborated a domestic dispute between Gabby and Brian Laundrie in Moab, Utah. The police department released a report from a second witness claiming he saw Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie engaging in a domestic dispute in Moab on August 12th. The witness told police he observed a man and a woman, later identified as Petito and Laundrie, arguing over a cell phone at about 4:30 in the afternoon outside of a grocery store in Moab, according to the police report. According to the report, they were talking aggressively at each other, and something seemed off to the witness. At one point, they were sort of fighting over a phone. I think the male took the female's phone. It appeared that he didn't want her in the white van. He got into the driver's seat, and she followed him. At one point, she was punching him in the arm and or face, trying to get into the van. The witness stated this in the police report. Now, according to the statement, the witness said the woman eventually climbed over the driver to get into the passenger seat and that she was overheard saying, "Why do you have to be so mean?" I wasn't sure how serious this was. It was hard to tell if it was sort of play fighting, but from the witness's point of view, something definitely didn't seem right. It was as if the guy was trying to leave her and maybe take the phone. Now, the family of Gabby Petito is making arrangements to bring her remains home to her native New York for a funeral. Next on the docket, what are the key factors that the prosecutors in the Barry Morphew matter are trying to hang their hat on to get a conviction? Now, we've read, and you can as well, the 130 pages of the report. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of games of we gotcha, but we're trying to condense it down here for you, and here are what we believe the several items that the prosecutor is going to say, this is what we're hanging our hat on. This is why you should find Barry Morphew guilty of first-degree murder in regards to the death of Suzanne Morphew. First, 4 days before Suzanne went missing, a neighbor reported her missing. Suzanne Morphew sent her husband a text message saying, quote, "Let's handle this civilly," allegedly referring to the divorce. Now, the investigators believe that Suzanne Morphew wanted out of the marriage and that Barry Morphew was jealous and manipulative. Barry Morphew allegedly denied any knowledge of the affair that Suzanne Morphew was going into, and in fact, he depicted his marriage as perfect and claimed that Suzanne Morphew had no intention of leaving him. Now, statements to authorities have been proven to be false and misleading by the investigation. Accordingly, 10 times to law enforcement, calling their marriage perfect. Now, Barry Morphew apparently said, well, like I said, she never sat me down and said that to me, ever. She's made comments via text, but she has never sat me down and said, Barry, I want a divorce. Never. Bottom line is, whether somebody's obviously unhappy, she was engaging in an affair with another married man who lived in Michigan, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she would have gone forward. Who knows? People stay together for the kids all the time. And she may say it's easy to do over the text message, but she never sat down and said, hey, let's get a divorce. Now, Maybe Barry Morphew is in complete denial. Maybe he wants to look like the good guy. I don't know. Is that going to be enough? Not really sure. I think we've all known somebody that one day winds up and their spouse says, we're getting a divorce, and they literally are shocked because they thought everything was perfect. The next point where the authorities prosecuting Barry Morphew say that this is some of their strongest evidence is the fact that Suzanne Morphew's bike, which was found not far from their house, they believed to be that it was suspicious. Why? There were no skid marks. There were no tire marks necessarily, as the bike went over the edge. The police are also suspicious as to how the bike handlebars became twisted around with the brake cables. If you look at the bike in the photograph where it was found down the ravine, it's unclear how the bike wheel got turned around. But that is not necessarily improbable. It just simply means that the wheel was turned around. The police still cannot say how or when somebody pushed the bike down there or whether there was an accident in any way. I don't think this is the strongest argument for the prosecution, but they seem to be hanging their hat on that argument pretty heavily. The next thing that the authorities allege is that they recovered deleted phone calls and messages with Suzanne Morphew days before she went missing, and there were some creepy internet searches. The prosecution alleges that Barry deleted numerous calls between himself and Suzanne between May 4th and 5th of 2020, and according to the affidavit, when asked by the FBI agents in April of 2021 why he deleted those calls, he said he did not recall doing so, and he must have been freeing up space on his phone. I don't think that is the strongest piece of evidence. Who hasn't gone through their phone, deleted text messages that were sent randomly? Maybe there's something there from your spouse that upsets you and you just delete it. Who knows? Once again, not sure that's going to be enough for a conviction in this particular case. As it relates to some searches that may not even come into evidence, but the prosecution in their affidavit spent a lot of time on it, and that was phrases found in deleted web searches. Some of those searches included older man, younger woman relationships on YouTube, third base, Dear Teen Diary, 9th grade, entry 14. These are all on YouTube. How to make a girl have an orgasm. This is all according to the affidavit. Yet on page 119 of the documents, investigators said that Barry Morphew was told that Suzanne confided in friends, namely Jeff Leibler, the man she was having an affair with, that sex with Barry was not pleasurable. She said, he responded, she had an orgasm every time, so I don't understand that, according to Barry Morphew, when he was responding back to those allegations. The guy may not be a perfect husband, but it doesn't necessarily make him a killer. He may have done it, but the evidence thus far is weak. The affidavit continues. The authorities provided more details about Suzanne Morphew's depiction of her husband as a Jekyll and Hyde and why her friend allegedly bought her a spy pen to record him. Now, many of the transcripts in the affidavit for the arrest warrant include conversations. There's talk about money. They fought about money. Oh my gosh, welcome to a marriage. Is that not usually the case? Why do people most often fight about money? There's also recordings in there where she forgot to turn the pen off of her having conversations with her boyfriend. So although we understand how the court found probable cause for the preliminary hearing, it was such a low standard. However, the evidence has got to get better and more robust than what has been provided thus far. The proof evident presumption grade standard that the court would have had to have met to hold Barry Morphew without a bond is getting very close to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And the court said the prosecution's evidence thus far, and he considered what's in the affidavit as well as what was presented at court, and he said, not good enough. The standard is low enough to get the case going and to keep it there, but it may not be enough for proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Let me know what your thoughts are. All right, next on the docket, Alex Murdaugh. Apparently, he can be very manipulative. It's alleged that Alex Murdaugh orchestrated the campaign to silence the innocent teen that he was going to blame as the driver in his son's fatal boat crash. Alex Murdaugh attempted to get another boat passenger, a guy by the name of Connor Cook, to hire a Beaufort lawyer by the name of Corey Fleming to represent him in the case. However, Murdaugh is accused of withholding information about Fleming, specifically that he's Alex Murdaugh's godfather, a close friend and confidant. Cook was allegedly told to keep his mouth shut about the case. He ultimately complied with both requests, according to court documents. According to a lawsuit, it's alleged that Alex Murdaugh served to convert the unwitting plaintiff, Mr. Cook, into an agent of protection for Paul Murdaugh, exposing plaintiff Cook to the potential of being charged as the boat operator and therefore responsible for the boat accident. Now, Cook was actually knocked unconscious after the accident and suffered from serious cuts to his face and multiple fractures to his jaw. Investigators eventually cleared Cook from any wrongdoing. However, the lawsuit alleges that Murdaugh orchestrated a campaign to hold Cook both civilly and criminally responsible for the incident. And Murdaugh is accused of orchestrating a whisper campaign in the Hampton County community and law enforcement by misdirection and possible obstruction of the investigation. Cook also alleged a civil conspiracy in his lawsuit, accusing 5 police officers of knowing and attempting to interfere with the investigation. Cook additionally claimed that some evidence was missing from the scene of the crash. Now, the 5 officers have information, according to Cook, as to the campaign to cloud the investigatory issues and disseminate false information in the community with the intention of misleading law enforcement and potential prosecution of parties and the public into wrongly and falsely believing that Connor Cook should be arrested and charged for the boat operation with multiple counts of felony boating under the influence. Now, additional passengers, including Beach's boyfriend, Anthony Cook, it's not exactly clear if he's related to Connor Cook, but he previously gave a deposition in connection with a wrongful death suit. The deposition records show that Anthony Cook told Austin Pritchard, an officer in the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, whose job was to figure out who was driving the boat, that Paul Murdaugh was driving the boat. The report also states that Paul Murdaugh denied driving the boat in his initial interview with Pritchard at the hospital after the crash. This crash is the one that was when Mallory Beach was still missing. Beach had been thrown from the boat, something that Paul Murdaugh did not immediately tell the dispatcher when he called 911 to report the crash. He ultimately revealed that someone was missing not long into the conversation. As things develop in South Carolina, there is no doubt that Alex Murdaugh, who manipulated his own possible suicide for a money scheme, was clearly involved in the cover-up, the initial cover-up, to protect his son. Now, that may be admirable for a father to protect his son, but as an officer of the court, he has a duty to protect the truth. Next on the docket, there's no such thing as a free ride. 2 men in Mississippi came across a vehicle with the keys in the ignition, and there was a sign on the dash reading "free car." They jumped in it and drove it to the home of one of their family members. But according to police, they say their free ride took a turn for the worse when they arrived at their destination and took a closer look at the vehicle. What did they discover? Well, they discovered that there was a naked corpse that had been stuffed in the trunk. According to the police, they say that the men found the car abandoned in the city of Byram. They apparently drove it, along with the dead body, for about 20 miles or so to a different county before they realized they were transporting human remains. Now, the Copiah County Sheriff, Byron Swilley, said that the body found in the car has been identified as 34-year-old Anthony McCrillis. The coroner determined that the body had been in the car for multiple days and was discovered without any clothing. Apparently, Mr. McCrillis was identified through his tattoos and confirmed through his immediate family's identity. Apparently, the body, according to the police, did not present any obvious signs of trauma. The police also state that the vehicle did in fact belong to the victim, and it had been spotted in that particular location over the last several days. Now, the authorities are not certain where the original crime took place, but their investigation is ongoing. Investigators intend to process the car for evidence, and an autopsy will be performed, obviously, to see if Mr. McCrillis to determine the cause of death. Now, this is a good lesson here, ladies and gentlemen. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as a free ride. These two young men are possible witnesses or individuals of interest simply because they had the car of a guy who was stuffed in the trunk. Okay? If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Don't do it. Don't take it. Next on the docket, R. Kelly wants to remain silent. R. Kelly says he won't testify at his sex trafficking trial. R. Kelly told the judge on Wednesday that he won't take the witness stand at his trial. The judge asked specifically, "You don't want to testify, correct?" That was U.S. District Court Judge Ann Donnelly. She asked the R&B singer, and he responded, "Yes, ma'am." Now, the 54-year-old Robert Sylvester Kelly has pled not guilty to the racketeering charges. He also has multiple charges, violation of the Mann Act, which makes it illegal to transport anyone across state lines for immoral purposes. The defense is now expected to rest its case later today, clearing the way for the start of closing arguments. The defense put on a very short defense case that relied on a handful of former R. Kelly employees and other associates who agreed to take the stand to try and discredit allegations that R. Kelly sexually abused women, girls, and boys during his 30-year music career, highlighted by his 1996 hit, "I Believe I Can Fly." Most of the defense witnesses said they never saw Kelly abuse anyone. One went as far as to say Kelly was chivalrous to his girlfriends. Another admitted he owed Kelly for his break in music business and wanted to see him beat the case. Now, as you may recall, prosecutors have called dozens of witnesses since the trial began in federal court back on August 18th. They included several females and two male accusers to back up allegations that Kelly used a cadre of managers, bodyguards, and assistants to systematically recruit potential victims at his shows, malls, and fast food restaurants where he hung out. The accusers testified that once they were in Kelly's web, he groomed them for unwanted sex and psychological torment, mostly when they were teenagers in episodes dating back to the early 1990s. There were accounts where they were supported at least part by the former R. Kelly employees whose own testimony suggested they were essentially paid off to look the other way to enable the recording artist to engage in his plan. Things are not looking good for Mr. R. Kelly. Not at all. Ghislaine Maxwell may want to take a look at this verdict. If it comes back quickly and guilty to all counts, it could be a precursor to Ghislaine Maxwell's trial results. Next on the docket, Tessa Major. Do you remember that case? Well, one of three teenagers charged in the attempted robbery and fatal stabbing of the Barnard College student at a New York City park in 2019 pled guilty yesterday to second-degree murder. The teen, Luciano Lewis, 16, also pled guilty to first-degree robbery, according to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Now, Lewis was charged as an adult, and if you may recall, Tessa Major's 18 was fatally stabbed at the Morningside Park in Upper Manhattan on the night of December 11th, 2019. During the robbery attempt, police alleged that one of the three teens put Majors in a chokehold as the others rifled through her pockets. Police said that Majors fought back and bit one of the robber's fingers. In the struggle, she was stabbed repeatedly in the torso. She was able to stagger out of the park but died at a nearby hospital. Now, Majors, who is from Virginia, was a freshman at Barnard Women's College, which is affiliated with the Columbia University system. A 14-year-old boy pled guilty last year, and another teen has a trial pending, and he's been charged as an adult. All right, next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. So Benjamin Dom, 31, was arrested inside the second-floor bathroom of a home in Lyme, Connecticut. Lyme. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, a 16-year-old boy arrived at his house and spotted an unfamiliar car with no license plates parked in the garage. Now, the teen also noticed that the front door was locked and then saw a man that he didn't know inside the house wearing shorts and no shirt and apparently making himself quiet at home. The man, who apparently saw the teenager, opened the window and told him, "This isn't your house anymore." Dom then slammed the window shut, and then a landscaper arrived to do some scheduled work on the property just after this somewhat bizarre encounter, and the cops were called. The shocked 16-year-old, meanwhile, called his mother to explain what was going on. Troopers arrived at the home to try to get Dom's attention, but had trouble doing so because he was blaring loud music inside. He eventually made some eye contact with a trooper, but he refused to leave the home. At one point, Dom downplayed the situation, saying he had every right to be there. He said, "I live here with my girlfriend. There shouldn't be any problem, and she'll be home shortly." Dom told the officers who were holding him at the gunpoint all of this. It was later determined that Dom was some 20 miles away from his own apartment in Gales Ferry. Ultimately, troopers, along with a canine, got into the home, stormed the bathroom, and found Dom. He was found hiding in an upstairs bathroom, taken into custody. Now, apparently, there's no visible damages left behind in the family home, and no property was stolen, according to the police. The vehicle that he drove, what is identified as the Jeep, and was given to the appropriate owner. Now, Dom was taken into custody on a $50,000 bond. I'm surprised he didn't get a PR bond and an invitation back to the residence, maybe if he was in New York or LA. He was charged with third-degree burglary, second-degree criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and interfering with officers. So, Mr. Dom, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. Yes, possession is not 9/10 of the law. You can't simply walk in and say, "This is mine," and make it yours. For having that thinking, Mr. Dom, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. And now you are eligible for the grand prize of the dumb criminal contestant of the week, where you could win a CrimeTalk mug. And Mr. Dom, you wouldn't even have to claim this was yours. If you win, it is yours. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It was a long docket today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.